it's been a week just like that, exactly what Donnie said. And that's why I have note cards up here today, because instead of practicing for my speech tonight, I was out there fishing heritage stages out of the water and making sure that my husband could walk on water, and so here we are. But I want to challenge you to view fishing through a different lens. This is the lens from the eye of a codfish, and it turns the view of Petty Harbor upside down and around. And I hope to change your view of fishing upside down and around. So hello, you know that I'm Kimberly Orren, and I take people out on the ocean in little boats to experience fishing. I am co-founder and project manager, a volunteer actually, of Fishing for Success, a little nonprofit in Petty Harbor, and we teach young people their fishing heritage. I'm not talking about the commercial or recreational fishing. I'm talking about something else, something deeper, something more meaningful, something mythical, magical, mystical, something that connects us to our very humanity. Fish are symbols of luck, wealth, prosperity, long life, and even wisdom. Salmon, the first fish for first people, even the Islam legendary fish floating in the ocean in a bowl, resting between the wings of an angel, holding up the ox that holds up the earth. These most touching human mythologies are described using fishing terms, that Jesus was a fisher of men, casting his net out upon the ocean. The beautiful lines of wooden boats, ribs pressing down the ocean, mimicking those lines of a cathedral's rafters as they press up the heavens. Or we have been challenged and inspired by fishing. It has served as our muse since the beginning of time. From 10,000 years ago, cave drawings across Spain and France have been of fish. What is it that's so powerful about fishing? I want to challenge you to think that this power of fishing can be used as a tool to create a society that is more equitable and inclusive, to create a society that is more sustainable, and one that can empower our young people to create and envision a better future for themselves. Fishing has captured our imagination because it is so very powerful, and I do believe that this simple act of fishing has this much power. Why do I believe it? Because of a very simple story of an unusual letter that was found in an old family Bible. You see, many years ago, when my grandfather passed away, we found lots of awards and certificates and pictures about his time during World War II serving in the Pacific. And they were just poked away in an old box. And yet, in an old family Bible, there was a letter that he had saved from me about my first fishing trip. Why did he save a letter from a little girl about her first fishing trip? Why didn't he save a letter from one of his war buddies? So while we may romanticize it now and Hollywood makes it some grand adventure, my grandfather didn't think of it this way. In fact, the way that he thought of it, the only time he rarely thought of it and he rarely spoke of it, he said to me, he never could understand how men could be so cruel to one another. What he did share with me, however, were the stories of his childhood. Riding the rail cars with his father to go to the grand powwows in Oklahoma, cane fishing for his supper, learning how to trap the wily raccoon, or staying with his Cherokee grandmother who would grow sweet potatoes and corn. And he would laugh then because he said the women owned the property and they had to do all the farming, and the men would go off and hunt all day. And the men had the fun and the women had all the responsibility. I believe that these childhood memories carried my grandfather through those horrible days of World War II. And it is our childhood experiences that create our sense of place and belonging, that connect us across space and time to our ancestors, that connect us to nature, that provide our very identity. I may never really know why my grandfather kept my letter in his Bible, but I can tell you I know exactly what that fishing experience meant to me. Anybody who knew about fishing, they weren't safe because I wanted to learn about fishing. I wanted to go ice fishing, I wanted to go trouting, I wanted to go cod jigging, I wanted to learn about this fish and that fish and fish parts. I wanted to know if it was a boy fish or a girl fish, and I wanted to learn all about the ocean. It glued me to this place. I felt connected to those who taught me how to fish. I felt connected to those who came before and taught them to fish. I even got interested in science because of it. Growing up in Newfoundland back then, youngsters could go down to the wharf and participate in the work of the communities, processing the fish. And I'm talking about cod now, not that little mud trout that I caught. We were assigned the role of cutting out cod tongues and helping to clean the fish. I could contribute to the meaningful work of the community. I could ask elders questions, and I had lots of questions, and they answered them, even though I wasn't their child. Because it was tradition, it was the best, most natural kind of mentorship. But now, we don't do that anymore. Fishing is more industrialized, and children can't participate in the work of the community. And so few of us fish anymore, whether recreationally or commercially. And our elders are getting older, and there are fewer pathways for them to share their traditional knowledge and skills. So I created a nonprofit to teach young children these traditions and to connect them, to help them develop these bonds, to place and ancestors through heritage fishing. So come with me now. Let's get in the boat. Let's discover some of these fishing stories. Maybe it's a story, just like a story that you have, or maybe you'll discover something new, just like I did. And what did I discover? I discovered that we are more alike than we are different. That throughout history, humans have fished. All cultures have fishing stories. Whether from rivers, shorelines, or mighty oceans, fishing is our shared human heritage, and it is the best way for us to connect with one another, share stories, and welcome people here. So, when we were going to go fishing with this family, I thought it was going to be all about the traditional Newfoundland and Labrador handline fishing. Come to find out, I learned more about fishing in Syria than anything else. Bamboo cane pole fishing from the rocky shores of the Mediterranean and its rivers to commercial trawling. That this family was looking forward to having fresh fish so that they can make their favorite recipes for supper. And I noticed as I was driving the boat that the daughters were nodding and smiling at me. Kind of looked like what you're doing now, encouraging me to keep going and not look at my notes. They were nodding and smiling at me because they hadn't seen a woman fishing and captaining a boat before. And their dad said to them, "You can grow up to be whatever you want to be." Now, just as we need the most numbers of children to create solutions to some of the greatest problems that we face today, ocean warming, ocean acidification, and microplastic pollutions, and how in the world are we going to feed 9 to 10 billion people? Our children are spending more time on virtual screens and less time outdoors. So how are we going to change this? Well, you probably know what my answer is already. I say we have to get them fishing. So Fishing for Success provides a 10-week summer program for urbanized youth called Youth Cod Fishery. And before you get in the boat, you've got to fix it. You see, we have all these little yellow wooden boats called dories, and they require a lot of maintenance. So when the kids care and fix the boats, now they're invested in it. When they scrape and paint the dories, there is pride in completing that simple work that they can see. They now can say, I painted that. And then we ask them to climb down this 10-foot stage head to get into this little boat way down there. And that's a big deal for a lot of these kids, because remember, they might live downtown, they might not have a tree in their yard to climb, and the biggest challenge to some of these kids might be a curb or a set of stairs. So as each one climbs down into the boat, we cheer, and then they get in the boat, and they're kind of scared. They sit, they don't want to move around, they're looking, the boat's rocking, they're not sure. And I ask them, what's going on? Well, they just repaired that boat, so they're a little worried. Wouldn't you be? It's a little wooden boat. So I say, well, I hope you did a good job. And you have a personal flotation device on, so let's hope your work holds. And then we go on out there. And the amazing thing is that the rope that they stuffed between the seams of the boards and the paint they applied just a week ago holds. The boat floats. And they're amazed. I'm not. But their life depended on the success of their labor. The boats never sink. And I say to them, did you ever imagine yourself in a little yellow wooden boat in the middle of the ocean? And they laugh at me, and they shake their head no, and they kind of look at me, wondering, like, what is she going to say next? And I say to them, well, here you are. Where else might you be? What else might you do that you never dared imagine? How about getting a B or an A in math? How about finishing high school? How about becoming an inventor or an artist or a musician? Envision a new future for yourself. Dare to dream. And then we go fishing. We make sure that each child catches a fish. And then they process their fish as food. We share some of the stories with them about the traditional uses of the fish and the fish parts. And then I do some of that science-y stuff too, you know, the fun stuff about the ear bones and that delightful fish lens that you saw earlier. So they learn all about that. They catch a fish, they gut the fish, they fillet it, they learn about where their food comes from. And they bring a meal home to their families. I believe that they have learned so much more than fishing. I am asking you to believe that the simple experience of fishing is a powerful tool that can create positive change to empower our young people to create a sustainable future with room for all of us. A little girl wrote a letter. Her grandfather kept it in a special place. And that little girl stands before you today, a little terrified, wearing her rubber boots. And I'm asking you to make your own connections, whatever they may be, because it is the connections that give you hope for the challenges of tomorrow. It is the memories that become your happy places. And it is these memories that become stories that you will share with your grandchildren in the years to come. So come and join me. Bring your family, your friends, your children, and let's get in the boat. There's room for all of us.